So you started swimming at the age of 4.
I did. Yes. And so I graduated when I was 22. And so I dedicated 18 years of my life to my sport, which of course includes, your sport specific training, your swimming, but it also includes weightlifting, your diet, your sleep schedule, your physical rehabilitation, not to mention the social sacrifices. You
Yeah.
don't get to go to prom. You don't get to come home for Christmas. You don't get to come home when you're in college. You don't get to come home for summer. We were there every single day, training 6 hours a day, swimming 10 miles a day. It's relatively miserable, but of course, the outcomes are always worth it, which is why we do it.
Absolutely. And your outcomes were actually kind of hindered a little bit because men started competing in women's sports. And so when was like the first time you started to notice that people of the opposite gender were competing in the sport, like a man competing in women's sports?
Really the first time this became relevant to me, especially in my world of swimming, we saw a case of this. It was a female, then transitioning, goes by Skylar Baylor, Skylar Baylor, now competes with the men, and this happened at Harvard. And
Mm.
so I saw this, and I, of course, didn't necessarily support it. But I thought, this is a woman competing with the man. There's no threat here. But it never once occurred to me that this could go the other way and we would be under threat. It just seemed out of realm. And even if it were to happen, I thought there would be governing bodies in place that wouldn't allow it to happen.
You would think, right?
You would think. And so I didn't become aware of this happening the other way around really until I was directly impacted by it. I
Yeah.
became aware of this swimmer, Lia Thomas, about November of my senior year. So November of 2021 was the first time that it was brought to my attention that there was a male competing against the women, especially at a level as high as we were competing.
Yeah, and the culmination of so your senior year of college, the culmination of all that work, 18 years of hard work, comes down to the NCAA championships, in which you were in the same race as William Thomas, Lia Thomas. And as you can see, I'm pulling it up on screen. This is the NCAA, the governing body that's supposed to be protecting you as a swimmer. And you were obviously at this race, but I want to show everybody a little bit of this so that they can kind of understand where you were at physically, so we can talk about where your head was at. So starting off, everybody, here is the beginning of the race in which Lia and Riley actually tied. Here's that.
Take your mark.
Ruck will go out for it. Ivy will go out for it. They may be 2 seconds ahead of Lia Thomas in lane number 5. They have the speed to be able to really jump on this first 100. This is going to be a lot tighter of a race.
So from the beginning, the announcers from the NCAA were obviously very enamored with Lia Thomas, despite the fact that she, whatever, gets further, it stays around 4th, 5th, 6th, almost the entire race. Where was your head at walking up to the block, getting on, take your mark, go? What were you thinking?
Really, first, before anything, it was a distraction. Swimming is, of course, a lot physical. There's a lot of physical that goes into it, but just like a lot of sports, there's a lot of mental that goes into it too. And so I can't even tell you the mental distraction, the mental hindrance. One, the locker room, that played on our mental toll. Two,
that was another, and I want to let you keep going, but that was one thing I wanted to get into at some point. So Lia was in the same locker room as all the other women?
Yes. Yes. We were not forewarned. We were not told. The only time we became aware that we would be sharing a locker room with Thomas was when we had to sit there and watch this 6'4" man disrobe and show his male parts. That's how we became aware that that's the situation we would be in. It felt like betrayal, belittlement. Of course, it's awkward, embarrassing, uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That to me was really worse than the competition piece.
If anyone else if I were to do something like that, it'd be criminal. I would get arrested on the spot.
Now all you have to do is say you're a woman, and it's not only is it just happening, it's encouraged. It's
exactly.
celebrated.
Exactly. What else was going through your head though, on top of that?
On top of the mental distraction and sense of, wondering of what this outcome would look like, I really felt like I was going into the race with my hands tied behind my back, and not because of the women I was competing against. I knew these women just like myself. We all had a chance to win that national title. We'd all trained. We'd all gone through things that only women go through when it comes to being a woman and what that looks like, especially in regards to training at that level. So that to me, and if I had gotten beaten by them, which I did get beat by some of the girls in that heat, of course, that's not something that frustrates me. I'm proud of those girls. I'm proud of myself for finishing top 5 in the country.
Yeah.
That's a huge honor. But in regards to competing against a male, of course, you feel like your hands are tied behind your back. You're going into this race with an understanding that there's an inherent unfair advantage, that no matter the training, no matter anything you do, nothing you do will overcome the advantage that Thomas has.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I wanted to get to. So I'm going to play just now the end of the race, because I thought this was interesting as well. Seeing you guys tie, I mean, obviously a lot of people were looking at Miss Ruck, Taylor Ruck, because she won the race. But coming to the end of it, you guys both tied.
Stanford's Taylor Ruck has twice been an NCAA runner-up individually. Ruck has led the entire way, and in the 200-yard freestyle, it's a wire-to-wire win for Taylor Ruck. Isabel Ivy takes.
And then we see, obviously, you in lane 1 and Thomas in lane 5 come both in right there in neck and neck. It was, I believe you guys ended at 1:43.40 was your time, which is incredibly impressive. Congratulations.
Thank you. It was, first of all, watching that again, ow, I remember how badly that hurt. That was not a best time for me. That was, I had added some time, but it definitely was not a best time for Thomas. Thomas added nearly 2 seconds, which in swimming, 2 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, of course, but in swimming, that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so, of course, what's going through my head, I touch the wall, I look at the scoreboard, and I see 5 by my name, indicating I got 5th, which I was honored. I was, that's great. I, of course, knew I could do better, but whatever. It was my last race as a collegiate swimmer. I was glad to be done. And I look at Thomas's name. Actually, before I even looked at my own name, I looked at Thomas's name and I saw the 5. And then I saw my 5 and I looked at my teammates and their jaws were dropped on the side of the pool. And I'm just thinking to myself, there's no way we tied. There's no way. I had already made up my mind that I wasn't going to get on the podium. That was going to be my form of protest. I wanted to swim my race. I didn't think it was fair for me to not swim my last collegiate race ever in terms of boycotting and protesting. So I thought to myself, I won't get on the podium. But now these thoughts are going on in my head, behind the scenes, okay, now if I don't get on the podium, there's not even an empty spot because we have to share the freaking podium.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was thinking. It was this a jumbled mix of emotions, all in a short span of time.
Absolutely. And I mean, it seems incredibly unfair.